thanks for coming back to the show. This again is Talk with TQ. I'm TQ, Toni Quest, and I have a very great guest to interview tonight. Her name is Toby Nadler, and she is the president of womeninbusiness.org. Now, keep your minds out of the gutter. We're talking about business, like finance and making money, and she works with women in their business, and she does tremendous events to galvanize and promote women in business. And here she is, Toby Nadler. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I'm so glad you're here. So we've actually met before on a couple of occasions, a few times on the phone. I did go to one of your events, which was fabulous, and you're always doing this kind of thing. Now, what I want to know is, how did you get into the business of business for women?
Well, it's more of a passion and a calling, and that was motivated to celebrate women role models and mentors. My mom passed away in 2001, and I decided to work with women, recognize and celebrate their sweet success, and that's kind of how it started. But I was working with women in business even prior to that, and I produced and created business conferences, the Northeast Women in Business Conference.
Oh, that's very interesting. I'm wondering, you mentioned that your mother unfortunately passed away in 2001. Was she a woman that was a businesswoman, or was she a traditional for her generation?
She was traditional, but she also worked for me in any capacity. She was a big can-do spirit and an inspiration, and I so admired her. There weren't many women role models growing up, and so when you had someone who was a strong woman, who was inspiring, who went and supported you, and I thought that would be a great thing to do, to recognize women in all different business sectors, and they serve as role models, and I thought this would be terrific. They're all out there across the United States.
This is true, and I think that women, in my experience, tend to mentor each other by default, I'll say. Now, this era that we're in now is really a great era for women. The most fantastic things are happening in the news, everything from sports to media to business. I imagine that you're just in the right place in the right time, your organization, as we're being taken a lot more seriously than we ever have been.
Well, womeninbusiness.org is innovative. It really started in the 90s when women's organizations came to fruition, and you started having general women's organizations, and then you started having organizations for business owners, organizations for certain industries, and it started maturing. But unfortunately, fast forward the decades, and a lot of that has not evolved. And so I saw an opportunity to really support women in a different fashion, in a way wherever they were, at whatever stage or growth level they were at, whether they were entrepreneurs and then switched to business C-sector, the C-suite executives. I felt that would be something that we want to be supportive of.
I think it's a good thing, and I think I'm not going to say everyone would believe that we'd be more inclined towards that, but sometimes it's always about just making a profit. Now, you actually have your own business. Did you have your own business first before you started Women in Business? What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, when I was young, and I was doing when I was younger.
That has been
all right.
Okay.
When I was younger,
yes,
we had. I had a family. I had a husband. I still do. Same family, same husband.
Okay.
And I started out life as a teacher. And then when I had my second daughter, I became an entrepreneur because there weren't many choices available, and I didn't want to go back to teaching and put my children in daycare or childcare,
Right.
and I didn't want my mom to take care, my parents to take care, so of my 2 children, and I had a house and the whole thing. So I just became an entrepreneur, and I did very well.
It sounds like it was out of necessity. I don't think that, in my experience and from what I've heard from other people, they see entrepreneurship almost as being an indulgence, a self-indulgence. But as we know, and you might address this from your point of view, is entrepreneurship very often, especially for women, is a necessity for a few reasons. And I'm going to let you take that one, see what your point of view is on that.
Well, I wanted to be able to be with the kids, the same dilemma that you heard, the work-life balance.
Yes.
And so I wanted to be with the children. I wanted to attend their recitals and the whole thing, and yet I wanted to make my own hours and do my own thing. And so I started in the wholesale business. I did custom gifts, stationery, accessories,
Nice.
and I created my own rep organization because nobody would rep me. And it was exciting, and I was in every department store known all over the world, and it was very interesting, and my children never thought I worked, and that was interesting.
That is interesting. If they only knew, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it sounds like you just started off, you just hit the ground running. Now, how was it for you in the beginning? Because in business, especially the kind of business you're describing, or in any business, you had to actually overcome competition and I imagine some backlash when you're in a man's world.
I was always in a man's world. The gift industry was a man's world. Most of the major industries at that time were. And it was a different situation, but that didn't stop me. I wasn't a designer, and I started designing, and things started selling.
Yeah.
And so whatever I created, it sold worldwide. And I just kept on going, and that part was easy. Hiring people to show up and
Yeah.
all that other good stuff that people are concerned about today.
Right.
That part is the harder part for me.
And you don't have to worry about how much you're getting paid because you can determine that on your own. Because right now people are talking about equal pay, and equal pay doesn't really apply so much when you're an entrepreneur unless you're paying somebody. And we're inclined to pay fairly, but I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that. What do you think it would be like to have a job, a job?
Well, I've been corporate also. I launched some newspapers, and I was corporate, and certainly being a teacher, I didn't run the school system.
Right.
And so you make choices in life. And again, I know lawyers who are now making chocolate, and I know people, and there's a difference between entrepreneurship, which is visionary, and business ownership. And so today there are people who it just doesn't fit their personality,
Right.
or they're treating it more like a hobby. Women in particular have a safe job, and then they're doing more and more on the side, thinking when they retire or when they become that successful.
Right.
But to be successful in your own business requires an awful lot of work, determination, and the hours just melt away.
So it also takes some creativity because you're very creative about the events that you promote and sponsor. Speaking of which, I heard a man today who was working behind a cash register in a grocery store down county someplace, and he talked about his daughter being an artist, and he's going to convince her that he's going to have her come to the reality that she will have to get a job like the one he's doing right now before she becomes successful. And I said 2 words to him. I'll tell you that later off camera. Nothing bad to tell his daughter, but what do you think about the fact that you're so creative about what you do? And there are many artists in every town. There's always this little art mecca, especially where we are now. It takes a lot of creativity. Now, do you ever work with artists? Because I find that it's very difficult to convince an artist that they're a sole proprietor. What are your thoughts about an artist as an entrepreneur, sole proprietor, business person?
Womeninbusiness.org is the national distinction for entrepreneurs, executives, professionals, and business owners in all sectors. And so I do come into contact with creative people, whether they're artists or musicians, even teachers, and they tend not to think of themselves as working women, which is interesting. They often ignore the business aspect of what they're doing, and they prefer to hire people to handle that. But when you're starting out, that may not have that option and choice. So we have honored outstanding women who are, for their sweet success, for their creativity. But we deal with dreamers and doers. We deal with leaders. And so it's important to get out there. And even if you're going from one skill set to another, it's okay. That's what we're about. Other groups do not have that, but they might say, well, you're not a business owner anymore, or you're not within the creative artist colony, and goodbye. And we don't do that. We welcome you from graduation to retirement, and that's your signature business legacy, how you evolve, and that's your path.
Business legacy, I like that. So you said you were a teacher. Now, and also you raised a family. Now, all of these things I imagine contributed to what you do in some way, shape, or form. I can't imagine that they didn't.
I find that I'm not teaching. I have a master's in early childhood. So when I address the women, I'm used to speaking in public.
Yeah.
I've been on national stages and keynotes. Very interesting groups of women that we encounter, and we always say business and pleasure, but always with a point. Today, people sometimes focus in on business and connecting. I've taught networking for Inc. magazine and other major companies, and it's very interesting because they equate networking and going out to meet and making connections, which is vital still today, face to face, with selling. So we never have badges when I create a special experiential event. I don't believe in labeling people.
Right. Yeah, not even with a name tag.
No.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. There's just something about it. Not that it's wrong, but it's something that I think dilutes why you're there.
If you have the opportunity to meet someone, especially today, and people are walking away from the computer and the screen, and therefore they've taken the time to be out there, you want to make it enjoyable. You don't want to forget the point of why people are there, and everyone has their own mission. But when you go and read a label, your badge, they're not making eye contact, and then if they read the badge, they just go and miss out on a lot of opportunities because each one today has their own network and their own connections, and it's very valuable.
What would you say are like what is the main population of people that join womeninbusiness.org? Like, what walks of life do you find they're from? I've been to, I'll say 1.5 events, and I did see quite a mix there. Everything from, artists, writers, to people that are engaged in MLMs, multi-level marketing businesses. There was such a mix.
And bankers. And C-suite executives.
Right.
And
attorneys.
Yes, they come from all over.
Physicians.
Heads of chambers. That's exactly what we're about. Today, people tend to stay within their environment, within their industry.
Yeah.
And our purpose is to celebrate sweet success, which goes beyond the attainment of wealth, power, fame.
Yeah.
It speaks to whom I help, how I feel, and what I change.
Right.
And when you stay within your own geographic area or your own industry, how can you go and recognize other successful and be supportive of other successful women in business? And so that is important to me. And so I curate, and that is essential to bringing the people together.
Yeah. You have some like famous people that show up at your events from time to time as well.
Well, the women we honor for their sweet success, or we call them associates, and our associates are distinguished women. If you go to our website, womeninbusiness.org, you can see these women. They're 95% are keynotes, so we never have a keynote. I couldn't select one, and they travel all over the world. So if they're available, they come to a special opportunity, a special event, and that's what we're doing at the Sweet Success Summit. So, but sometimes you give them a year ahead and they're all booked, and and so it's difficult to bring everyone together. So we have no yearly dues and no monthly meetings. It's very difficult to have people come the third Thursday of every month.
Right.
And then also, once I met you, Toni, I know exactly what you're doing. And after the third time, there's not that much of a difference.
Right.
And so people want to get to meet other people. And how do they do that if they are tied down to that type of structure?
Right. I think it's also comfortable sometimes when you're, I do business with different people for my art. There's no one category, but there's a comfort level of being in a room, you know, with a bunch of women listening to a particular, you know, banter, you know. There's a comfort level in that, because I know when I went to one of your events, everybody's listening to the event, but as soon as it was like, okay, you're free, and everybody just immediately like started to like start running around, shaking hands, giving out cards. It was like almost kind of frantic in a sense.
It's very interesting because there's a certain type of personality. We say, why do you come to, whether it's the grand business salons or our talk walks, and now we're having the summit, and they say, well, we don't quite necessarily know what this is about because it is innovative. No one is doing this. And therefore, we came because it sounded interesting. And that's what people are hungry for. They're interested in the excitement, the experience, something different and unique. And we never repeat the same event. So typically an organization will switch out speakers. They might change on occasion a venue. We always have a different venue. We always have a different format. So when you keep that, I'm giving them what I want that I could never find out there. And when you keep that exciting, interesting, you can always keep on coming because there are different people at any time. The venues are different, the experience, the format, and there are always surprises.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Now you have an event coming up, and it's this the rendezvous at the womeninbusiness.org Sweet Success Summit. Yes, in October. I'm not going to date this particular interview because I want it to last forever. But tell me what this razzle dazzle is about.
Well, it's a Sweet Success Summit. Sweet Success refers to our purpose. We just have a purpose of spreading the word and the leadership. And so we decided to call it a summit. It's not a business expo. It's not a girls' party. Definitely not political. And I thought a rendezvous is a gathering. And why not throw in razzle dazzle? Because we certainly have a lot of that. And it's very exciting. And we're inviting the public for the first time to come. Free admission. Free admission.
You know, at the Westchester Mall in Westchester, and that's October 19th. I just said it. I think that that's going to be a successful thing. It's kind of, I see October as being like a transition month. There's one thing is just ending, you know. I call it the beginning of the eating season.
Well, you mentioned eating. October 19th, I found out recently because I'm also the president of Company for Dessert. We're a B2B connector, and we also run the U.S. Favorite Dessert Challenges. So I have my my mind on dessert, and we will have dessert tastings at the summit.
Right.
But it turns out to be Sweetest Day, which is celebrated in certain states.
Oh, really? I've
In
heard
the
it.
United States, which
Sweetest
is
Day.
October 19th. And I thought, why not have Sweet Success Summit on Sweetest Day?
Wow, the Sweetest Day. I thought that was October 31st for some reason. Halloween.
That's Halloween.
Maybe it's not. But I always see that mid-October as being the beginning of the eating season. You have the Rosh Hashanah, you want it to be a sweet year, and then after that, and that's an eating event, and then you have Halloween, and then you have Thanksgiving, and then you have, the holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah, and I call it the beginning of the eating season. I think that the date is perfect.
Thank you. We're excited. As I said, there'll be dessert tastings and a lot of experiences. We're even doing something that womeninbusiness.org that I created is wine painting, which is not drinking and painting. The wine is in the paint.
Oh.
And so that's a great icebreaker. We've used it at our grand business salons previously, and the women love it. And I should say, by the way, we do have men who participate in the business relationship with womeninbusiness.org.
Right.
They wanted to meet all these powerful women, so
Of
we
course.
created the Alliance.
Oh, okay. So, really? Tell me about the Alliance.
Well, the Alliance is where the women are the associates. Men we cannot recognize the men who are successful. We're focused in on the women who are successful. But the men want to do business. They want to connect. They want to meet and be inspired also. And frankly, it is becoming a woman's world more and more. And men have bosses who are women, their CEOs, their colleagues are now moving up. And so this is very exciting. And that's why they're involved with Women in Business.
Okay, the Alliance. I like that. I wasn't aware of that aspect of it. But I think that, people that are in business want to do business with other people in business. But I think that there's a different vibe when women do business together. Your walk and talk event, which I had gone.
Talk walk,
sorry. Your talk walk event, I felt that was very appropriate because I can say that there are artists that get together, and very often, and if the two artists are women, even if it might be in two different areas of art, there's this talking and walking thing that happens. If you say, oh, let's take a walk, down the river for a couple of miles. And a lot of business deals happen on these walks.
Well, that's why we launched Talk Walk, and we have done Talk Walk on the High Line in New York City.
Yes.
Talk Walk on the walkway over the Hudson. We've done Talk Walk at the dam. But what happened was, being outside, you like to control things in business, and being outside, they're busy women. They have a hard time doing a rain date, and you cannot control the weather. So we're launching this year at the Sweet Success Summit. We're doing Talk Walk at the mall. And the first one is Talk Walk at the Summit. So we're going to be indoors, whether you like hot or cold. Indoors is the way to go.
It always works.
It does work.
Yeah, so how does one get involved in the summit, to show up for the Sweet Success Summit? How would you get involved in that?
You go online to womeninbusiness.org. I've had that name since the 1990s.
It's yours?
Yes, I've had it. I should have taken 1-800-FLOWERS, but I didn't do that.
Okay.
and we were walking around with brick cell phones, and no one knew where the internet was. But what we're doing was, we're having people sign up online. If they register by September 1st, they can get a lucky number. We have our summit surprises. We also have the swaggame.com, and that's the first digital women's business game. And there's a lot going on. It's interactive, it's exciting, and they can register for free right on womeninbusiness.org.
There you go. And you have the opportunity to win a prize.
Many opportunities
to win a prize. I think that's a beautiful thing. So you look very excited about it. And I just have a good feeling about this one because it's inside.
We anticipate thousands of women. There's a lot that we're offering in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and we're offering an awful lot. And again, we're spreading our message of sweet success, so that sets us apart.
Yeah.
It's a positive message. It's interacting. It's promoting what you're doing and having the opportunity to meet fantastic influentials. We have inspiring women who are going to be here, podium time. It's just really fantastic.
Yeah, it'll be a good thing. You never know who you'll meet.
That's right.
You know, this is very true. And you go to an event like this, you can make, at the very least, you'll have a good time and maybe get some inspiration from other people. But ultimately, you meet someone that you could do some business with. Collaboration's a beautiful thing.
People are surprised. They come here, and I'm asking the public if they decide to come to invite a friend, invite Toni, invite someone, a colleague, a friend that they have that is working, and to be here with them. Because often they'll come alone, and then they'll be surprised to see other people who have, other women who have reached out and registered, and they say, what are you doing here? And they really could have shared that opportunity. That's a great opportunity to connect, to spread the word and spend time with people, prospects that they want to meet.
I think that it sounds like it's a good idea to check into your website periodically, which is what I do, just to see what's going on, you know, because you always have something happening.
We have our colleagues now. We're inviting women to join as colleagues.
Okay.
And we've adopted the symbol of the pink flamingo. And whatever transition, wherever you are, we want to be with you. We want to celebrate sweet success. We want to have you get to meet role models and mentors.
I like pink flamingos. I saw a documentary recently, I'll tell you after the show. Pink flamingo baby checks are the cutest things. Anyway, another show, another guest. You mentioned that. Pink flamingos are the coolest. I really like them. People put them on their lawns. They do replicas.
Well, these are not faux flamingos. Womeninbusiness.org. These are genuine women. These are women who are out there. They're really leading the way, and whatever stage you're at, whether you're new or seasoned, sometimes people have been out there for a while. They say, well, we've seen it all, we know it all, and they come here and they are surprised, they are refreshed, they are re-energized, and it is just very, very interesting. And because I curate and I reach out, and people of a certain type of person, a certain character, very positive-minded people like this.
Yes.
And that's why there's that energy in the room or this space.
And I can attest to that because I have been there. But I thank you so much for being on the show. You know, you've given everybody a lot of information, and your events, you'll always meet somebody unique, and then you'll sometimes discover how unique you are yourself. So thank you, Toby Nadler. And I thank you, audience, for coming back to the show. I love doing this. Everybody knows I love this show. I thank my wonderful director, James Brooks. He's the best. And I'll see you next time. Bye.